we've got George Martin, who is you generally go on Facebook, right? Your following is on Facebook, and you trigger SJWs and destroy carnists. You're paid by AV now, aren't you? So
yeah, so I'm one of AV's newly employed staff now that we've become a registered organisation. Yeah, so I'm part of the social media team.
We've got Emma, does all kinds of things. You did loads of street interviews back in the day, which is how I first found you out. I think you do quite a lot of reaction videos and stuff as well, but you're on YouTube, so if anyone wants to check out Emma's street interviews, I'd really recommend it. Banana Warrior Princess. And then we've got Isaac, Ask Yourself, who I think you said a bit before, but generally destroying carnist arguments all over YouTube. So yeah, and I'm Humane Hancock, obviously you know me if you're watching. So I hope that was good enough, guys.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Satisfied, George?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so the first topic we're going to go into is things vegans say in debates, or generally not just in debates, but things vegans say that are completely wrong. Yeah, so I'll get the sort of game started on this one. I think it's a really important topic as well, because if we're saying things that are completely incorrect, then it's going to weaken our movement generally, because then people won't believe the things we say which are correct, obviously. One thing I hear a lot, and I think it's even something that I've done in the past, to be honest, and that's an appeal to nature fallacy. So quite often vegans will try and argue that it's unnatural for humans to be consuming any animal products. They especially do this with dairy, and therefore it's bad. Obviously,
and it makes it, yeah. I mean, I think it makes it even more ridiculous, seeing that, in my opinion, nothing we do as humans is natural. The definition of natural is something that is not man-made. In this day and age, veganism you can't even call natural. Our diets aren't natural. We go to the shop, we buy things wrapped in plastic that were picked for us. Much of it will be genetically modified crops. We might take supplements and stuff. We drink fortified plant-based milks and stuff that used machinery to make. I don't think we can even call veganism natural. Neither omnivorism nor veganism in this day and age is natural, unless you are to either hunt or to forage your own food. That's the only way you could call any diet now natural.
Well, I'll comment on that one in a second, but I think the best example of just a stupid wrong thing that I've heard a vegan say in a long time is it's a good idea to drink your own piss.
Who could you be referring
Oh,
to?
who could that be?
But yeah, as for the natural one, yeah, so obviously saying that something is good because it's natural is not the kind of argument we want to make, because there's tons of natural things that aren't good. So it can't be that nature is the sole determinant of what's ethical. I mean, do we want to say that like parasites and diseases are, you know, ethical, or that murder is ethical? And then there's another point you can make here, which is to actually just criticize the whole distinction of natural, unnatural. I mean, what exactly does it even mean for something to be natural? Like, technically everything is natural, right? So a better distinction might be like man-made versus not man-made. But yeah, I think that the same kind of problems apply. You can find good and bad things that aren't man-made.
Yeah.
There are even some vegans that go as far as to say that, well, B12, you have to get it naturally. You can't just take a supplement. You have to get it through, I don't know.
That was actually gonna, for this topic, that was actually going to be one of the things I mentioned. The idea that vegans can just get B12 from unwashed fruits and vegetables. And I would say that there's no evidence that we can.
We had a doctor who did the calculation, and he ended up finding out that you had to eat like this absurd amount of dirt to actually get your B12 from dirt.
What's that, Abby?
I mean, I think they found maybe one or two like sea vegetables that might have like a high amount of B12 in them, but apparently it's not like very bioavailable nutrients. So like, even if you were to eat them, even though it's high in B12, we wouldn't even be able to absorb it properly.
Well, that would also be a very weird historical account, right? Because not everyone had access to sea cucumbers.
Yeah.
So it can't be that that's what everyone was getting their B12 from.
Yeah. So where would you say we were getting B12 from throughout human evolution? Where were we getting B12 from?
You know, I don't know. I don't know the science well enough. I know some pretty reputable people who would say that we got it from meat, though. And if that's I would just say, like, let's just grant that for the sake of argument and see if it does anything to the vegan case. And I don't think it does. I think that it could be that, you know, take whatever bad thing you want and say that it had some positive effect at some point. That's not going to make the case, at least not to anyone who I'd consider reasonable, that we should therefore continue doing that bad thing today if there's no need to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, another example would be the argument where carnists say, well, this is a carnist argument, but where they say that eating a meat develops our human brain. Therefore,
yeah,
yes,
sure.
Doing it, you know, it's kind of like,
well, it's the same form. It's like, it's like X was good for us in some way at some point, so therefore let's just keep doing X.
Even though I think what the thing that actually separated us from other species was the fact that we cooked.
Okay, but here's the thing about all that. When you do, you know, when you have conversations about veganism, do you really want to find yourself in a massive conversation about, like, the role of cooking in history, or like human anatomy and whether it's herbivorous or carnivorous, or like all of that just seems to me like getting off of the point, personally.
It does. You're right. It just doesn't matter. It's not relevant to the fact that we know we can live without so
and if you want like an algorithm to test if it's relevant or not, you just ask yourself, full plug for my channel right there, just ask yourself, if I grant this thing, if I just grant their position on it, would my position break? And if the answer is no, then it's not actually relevant to whether your position holds.
Yeah,
it saves yourself so much time as well. Just get on with the actual argument. And
well, I mean, some people like to, like, I mean, I had one friend who Emma knows, Dr. Avi, and he would always battle them out on every level. He'd destroy them on the pragmatic level, he'd destroy them on the principled level. But yeah, if you want to move quickly through a conversation and you don't want to get bogged down, I mean, a good strategy is just to grant the things that aren't going to affect your case. But there's nothing wrong if you have the time and it interests you and sitting there and going through everything, even if it's not directly relevant to your point.
I find I can't do that because I can't do the like delving into every point thing, because I just forget what I was talking about in the first place, and I just have to like stay on the same kind of trail of thought. So
it's never been my style. I mean, for me, I just want to get to the point.
Yeah.
That, like, I have usually one core thing that I want to convey in a conversation, and I just kind of like discard whatever is not really relevant to that point.
What do you guys think of the point that I've heard quite a lot of vegans saying about world hunger, saying go vegan for world hunger? Because
what does that mean?
So essentially they're saying we're feeding billions and billions of animals with plants that could theoretically be fed to humans. We're talking like 57 billion land animals a year, right? Well, there's, 7 billion humans? But the thing is, from what I understand, we already have enough food anyway to deal with world hunger. It's just more the distribution. And I suppose I could grant that theoretically we could use the food, like the soy that we feed to animals, for humans, but I don't really see that happening anyway. Even if, you know, the world went vegan, it wouldn't necessarily mean that we'd give more food to people starving. So it doesn't make sense to me.
I think that's quite relevant, especially to the whole Notre Dame burning point as well, with the whole, like, the billionaires were able to offer hundreds of millions of pounds instantly to fix it, euros, whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, that just shows how quickly they could solve world issues if they could, blah, blah, blah. And perhaps it's the same with what you mentioned. We do have the resources, money, crops available to fix many, many, many issues in the world. We just choose not to. So I guess you do bring up a good point as to, well, even if we did have all these crops available, and possibly we do, would we feed them to starving African kids anyway? Because what's the profit to be made from that?
Yeah, I haven't done any research on that one. I don't know the details there.
On
Just on the
yeah.
on the question of whether going vegan would stop world hunger. I mean,
Yeah.
like I get the point. If we weren't feeding the food we're currently producing to animals, there would be enough food to feed to humans. Like that seems like a true thing to say, but
Yeah.
it seems like it might be a stretch to say that just by going vegan, that will somehow cause that food to end up with those people. That seems like the part that's a bit of a leap of logic.
Which is a real bummer, because I've used this argument several times.
Me too.
Well, I think that a slight modification on it can still be interesting, though. You just pointing out that fact, that we're actually producing enough food to feed everyone and we're feeding it to animals, like that's kind of disgusting in its own way, right? Regardless of whether you add the additional claim that going vegan would somehow fix it.
Yeah. So generally, I'd say we're making so much food for these animals. Theoretically, we could fix world hunger.
And I don't know if it's I mean, I don't know. I don't think that would be like the strongest way to argue for veganism, but it's still just a poignant thing to say because it just points out how messed up our priorities are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how messed up they are in this actual area right here about food and animals and stuff. But yeah, there's definitely stronger points to be made for veganism, that's for sure.
Another one. Sorry, were you going to say something?
No, well, I was gonna the other point I was gonna bring up that I've been hearing a lot recently is I'm sure you guys will agree with this anyway, is the whole with like Canada Goose stuff, like saying those coyotes are skinned alive and stuff, which isn't true. They the raccoon dogs on fur farms in China, we know for sure are skinned alive. We've seen the horrific videos of that. There's the horrific murder of coyotes for fur trims is bad enough. We don't need to lie and say that those coyotes are skinned alive. And I've seen vegans say stuff like that.
You just made the point that I was gonna make. So I don't like. Look, my interest is really like the philosophy and the logic. I don't keep up with all the little pragmatic debates about like what Canada Goose is doing or like this new product or this environmental or health fact. So I don't always have much to say about those kind of things. But I definitely have a general point, though, and you just made it, which is that we don't need to exaggerate anything. Like, it's already so bad. The risk of losing credibility by exaggerating things is way more concerning to me than the potential gain that we're going to get out of exaggerating things is appealing to me. So I think that we should just spell things out exactly as they are. And people will find that troublesome enough.
Yeah, it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
I mean, like, is there that much of a difference between saying like brutally murdered and like skinned alive? Like, yeah, one's worse, but it's like they should both be bad enough that any reasonable person is going to look at them and go like, okay, either of those would be like not acceptable to me.
Yeah, if someone murdered a child, you wouldn't need to say something like the child was skinned alive to shock people. Bad enough. Shot them, whatever.
Yeah, that's funny.
I don't know. It does sound slightly worse.
It does.
I grant that it sounds worse.
It's more specific. That's why.
yeah.
If you get
sure, but no one's questioning that it's worse. It's just the point is just that both are bad enough that I mean, saying either should be sufficient.
I think a lot of activists, they try and get that specific with things, even though they might not necessarily be true, because they feel like it'll be more persuasive by.
They think it adds more credibility to the argument. No, it's like if I mention this bit, they might think, "Damn, this guy knows his stuff." You might.
Well, it would, if true. I mean, if the fact were true and it makes the thing morally worse, it would add credibility to the argument. It would make it a stronger moral case. But again, like we've just said a bunch of times, the case is already just so strong. There's no need to do it. It's like not to make make it political, but like it's like with Trump, right? And I'm not like a Trump supporter or anything, but you get some pretty crazy stories about Trump that are just like not even true, right? And it's like there's no need to make things up. The guy is fucked in so many different ways. There's so much like actual reality that's there to criticize. Why make things up, right?
Yeah, I mean, as if there's nothing that about any politician, about any of their policies you can criticize. And there you see people like doctoring images of Trump shaking hands with the KKK and stuff like that. It just turns their argument into a stupid Jesse Smollett type thing, like basically making shit up to exaggerate a problem.
Yeah, I didn't follow that whole situation, but didn't he ultimately get off at the end there?
Yeah, he did, but there's the evidence would tend to suggest that he did stage it, and he knows the guys who did it. Apparently, it was 2 black guys who did it to him. That's what witnesses say, I think. And
I don't know.
Saying like 2 random white dudes in red hats went up and shouted, "This is MAGA country," and beat him up.
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on it because I just don't know. I don't know the facts, but I think the general point is stable. And you could certainly make it about other politicians than just Trump, right? Like anyone who has a big platform, you could actually say this about. That should make the point easier to land with anyone who's like really politically biased. Like anyone who has a big enough platform, there's just going to be, lies and garbage about them. And if there's anything actually wrong with what they're doing, just spelling out the truth of that thing should be sufficient. I mean, why would you need to exaggerate? I guess that exaggeration, there could be actually instances where it's like beneficial, but I'm skeptical of the benefits. And I really think that like getting a reputation for being full of shit is like probably one of the worst things that could happen for the movement. So, I mean, just the potential gains just don't seem worth it to me when that consequence is looming there. I think we should try to keep everything very above board. I also don't want to set a standard where people are comfortable just lying to each other. I'd rather set a standard where we're honest with each other.
Jack, what was the thing that you were about to say before I brought up the point of the Canada Goose?
Right. Yeah, I was going to say I've heard a few vegans in debates, and when the carnist says or gives them the burning building situation, would you save an animal or a human baby in this burning building? Some vegans will argue that all life is equal. So
that's what I was going to bring up next, actually.
Yeah. I've actually had an argument with a vegan in the middle of Earthlings experience.
Oh no.
Yeah, because we were having this conversation. She was really aggressive, started swearing at this guy after he gave him the burning building question, and I said I'd save the human baby because humans are more sentient. Like a human is more sentient than a chicken. And then I started debating the vegan girl because she was saying that like there's no moral difference between an ant and a human. I said, which would you save? Would you save me? Would you save me, or would you save an ant? And she said, "Oh, if I was friends with the ant." Like,
oh my god.
Yeah. There's a lack of acknowledgement of sentient hierarchies in the vegan community sometimes.
Yeah, I mean that just sounds like a deranged moral compass to me. I mean, anyone who's going to say they'd save an ant over a human is just out to lunch. Like, you can believe that if you want, but if what you care about is something like maximizing well-being, so what can be useful to do here is like bring up their normative ethics and ask them to make a case for how that action is in line with their normative ethics. Like if they're like a utilitarian, like they're trying to maximize well-being, I'd be very curious to hear the case that saving an ant will generate more well-being than saving a human.
But the question is, with the ant scenario, is who is the human? Because Gary Yourofsky's got a fantastic bit on his site called something like the asinine burning building question. And
I'd hold the same position if it's Hitler.
Exactly. Would you save an ant, or like who's the person here in the building? Is it an ant? Is it is the ant with Hitler? Is it your mum? Like who is burning in this building with the ant?
If it's Hitler, I still save Hitler over the ant.
No, fuck that, man.
Well, then I'll put the question to you. How do you think that's what are your normative ethics? Are you utilitarian?
I don't know. I've never labeled myself as any.
Right. Well, so you're right. So you're kind of just going off your intuition then, right? Like with that question right there. I mean, to me, like I don't believe in any of, like, I get into it with Paul about this too. So if Paul Bashir is watching, I know that he's sitting here probably cringing at what I'm saying right now. But if what you care about is maximizing well-being, and if you don't have any belief in like free will or something like this, and you just see Hitler as just like a product of whatever causes produced him, then all you're going to see there is just two beings. One is more sentient than the other, and you're choosing which to keep around, and it's going to make for more well-being to keep Hitler around. So,
no, how? No, saving the creature that causes less harm would maximize well-being. So
wait, we're not assuming Hitler's going to commit a Holocaust if you keep him around.
But that's what.
Okay. Sorry, I thought the situation you were giving me was there's an ant, there's Hitler, and it's not the case that Hitler will like commit a Holocaust if you keep him around. It's like he's already committed it, and he'd be like in a prison or something.
Oh, even if he's already committed it, though.
Okay, in that situation, because I'll grant it to you if saving Hitler means committing a Holocaust, then 100% you should kill Hitler over the ant. But if Hitler has already committed the Holocaust and we have Hitler in custody and he poses no threat to anybody, which action is going to maximize well-being?
But Isaac, what is Hitler eating in prison?
Well, wasn't he a vegetarian?
No. Carrying on committing a Holocaust from behind bars.
Well, so is everyone else that's not
right, but
yeah.
I mean see that argument would just apply to like the whole, like a lot of the prison population. I think they have vegetarian food in there. I don't think they force you to be a carnist in prison. But
yeah, no, they don't.
But like let's just grant that he is eating a vegan diet. Are you still going to say kill Hitler?
Yeah.
You killed vegan Hitler.
Why do people who have committed such atrocities? Why is human life so precious that someone who's committed?
Yeah, I don't. George, am I right in saying that you believe there is free will, don't you?
Yeah, you're zeroing in on the difference here. This is going to be the relevant thing: is free will.
I've heard some of your arguments for it and stuff, Jack, and I've definitely become maybe slightly more convinced that it might not exist, but I'd still say it does. I would
wait. The default position is we don't know if there's free will, right? So if you think there is, then what's your account of free will? Like you have to provide a case that it exists, right?
I just don't think. I think every day when I make a choice, I don't know. I think it's like
he feels like he's making a choice, and that's his evidence.
I don't think there's any kind of like force the choice. I don't.
Okay. Well, there's different ways you can kind of approach this. So like, the big problem is that I've never heard anyone give a coherent account of what we're going to call libertarian free will. There's compatibilist accounts, but they don't preserve the kind of thing that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
So like. To say that you are the cause, and just before even going into free will, to spell out why this is relevant, okay? If with the Hitler example, we have an ant, we have Hitler, and you're choosing which one to save, and we're just going to say Hitler's kept in prison, he's eating a vegetarian diet, so he's not going to be causing future suffering to other people, right? That's the key part of this. Now, who do you save? Now, I'm going to say save Hitler, but someone else might say save the ant. And a reason that you might say that is because you believe that Hitler is in some way like blameworthy. And you would say that if you believed in free will and you thought like he freely made the choice to commit evil, like he is kind of like a fundamentally evil being because of the free choices that he made. Now, if on the other hand, just hypothetically, if you had a view that he was not responsible for any of the choices that he made, just picture that for a second, just grant that for the sake of argument. If that were the case, then I assume that you would say, okay, well, I guess if he's not really responsible, like let me just give you an easy example that will make you able to visualize it. Just say that it turns out that Hitler had a some kind of like tumor in his brain that was like pushing on his amygdala and like caused him to become like angry and hateful, and we actually removed it, and he just was a different person once it's removed, and he doesn't want to kill or hurt anyone, and he deeply regrets his actions, right? In that situation, would you still have like would you still want to see him go to jail if it was all just the fault of a tumor in his brain and we took it out?
Yeah. No, I wouldn't, because
okay, so just let me throw in one more thing and then you can go crazy, because I just want to complete the point. So now if what we can do is make it seem like the actual world is equivalent to that tumor, the actual set of prior causes is just like that tumor, then you're going to be in the same situation. So that's what we will try to do with the free will argument. But yeah, please go ahead.
Well, I'm not sure I would agree with that analogy, because you can't really control what a tumour does to your brain, whereas the world around you, there are ways of letting it affect or not affect you. Like when we say the world around us, well, you know, what websites am I looking at to fuel my hatred of a certain ethnic group, or what? Like I'm still actually making actions or whatever in that situation. Whereas with the brain tumor, I can't do anything. I don't think the world is comparable to the brain tumor.
Do you think you could be like a product of your environment then, or not?
Yeah, to a certain extent, but I don't know. I still think
if you surround yourself with like the same 5 people and they're just like really negative all the time, are you going to be like really positive?
I don't know. The thing is, if we take that route of like, oh, we're all just an exact product of our environment and our genes, we could excuse like literally anything. We could just go.
Oh yeah. I'd say we can't. I mean, this is why I wouldn't murder vegan Hitler, because while I can't hold him accountable, I can't judge him really, because it's not his fault. Because if I had genes and if I had his environment, I'd be vegan Hitler. So, but I'd say we still should hold people accountable, right? Because it acts as a deterrent. So.
Yeah.
So the only reason you'd say to like put someone in prison is as a deterrent? It's not because
because
wait, that might be a bit narrow. That's like the main thing, but like we always just want to draw it back to our ethical system, right? Like if the goal is to maximize well-being, it's pretty obvious that having people out there who are just going to like murder and rape is a bad strategy for that. That's the incentive to put them in prison. Like the deterrent is part of that, but also just having that individual not able to commit future actions is part of it. It's all just a calculation of if we can put them in jail or not put them in jail, which of those two worlds would maximize well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to say also, so the only reason now we haven't like made any kind of case so far that the tumor and the world or the set of prior causes are analogous. I was just saying, if in principle that's the case, then you would grant that we should save Hitler, which I understand you've said yes to. So that was just me trying to clear up if free will is the thing that's like standing in the way of us agreeing here. And as your answer confirms, yeah, so it is. Now, I've never heard a coherent account of free will, libertarian free will. And this is the problem, right? Everything that's going on in your brain is just produced by prior causes, extending back like before your birth, right? Like your thoughts just pop into your head. Your brain is just a set of molecules in motion, right? You aren't like creating your own thoughts. Your thoughts are just arising in your consciousness as a result of your, neurology and environment. So in what sense could you ever like freely make a choice? Like, could you give me an example of like a free choice that you make?
The thing is, there's so many decisions we have to make that pop into our heads that choosing one would be an example of a free choice, surely. So if you go, this is a dumb example, but say you go to a vending machine and there's all the different drink flavors in there. Say there's like 20. Surely choosing one of those out of the 20, is that not a free choice?
Well, it doesn't. I don't understand why it would be a free choice, right? Like your brain chemistry just acted in some way that caused you to choose one over the other. And what caused your brain chemistry to be like that? Well, the prior states of your brain chemistry. And what caused the prior states of your brain chemistry to be like that? Well, the prior states of your brain chemistry before that and the environment, and it just stretches back to the Big Bang. So at what point do you enter the picture and start somehow, it's not like the case for free will, what you basically have to say is that you as an agent somehow like leave the chain of causation and start like causing things yourself, right? And I just don't understand how that could be the case. You're just molecules in motion like everything else. You're just determined by the laws of nature and the way that energy and matter is operating.
But then taking this into account and seeing some of your like videos and when you proper like savage people, Isaac, surely that you should. I'm not saying you do. I have seen you make like ad hominem attacks like before on people. I know you tend to avoid doing it, and you'd see it as a fallacy. But I've seen you. But surely, like,
we should distinguish between an ad hom and an insult. I take an ad hom to be saying that someone's wrong because of some insult that you directed them, versus an insult is just insulting them.
Well, I swear I've seen you say stuff before, like so and so is a fucking moron, blah blah blah.
Yeah, but that would never be given as an argument for why that person is wrong, though.
You'd explain why he's wrong and then say, "Oh, and he's also a
Okay,
moron."
but
Yes, yeah.
but why say the word at all if it's like not their fault and they're just like a robot? It would be like calling a robot a complete fucking idiot when all they are is programmed like.
Yeah. Well, I think that, you know, I'm just a human who like is experiencing emotions, right? So I think that, you know, if I get frustrated at like, you know, a brick or like the wind, I might be like, you know, stupid fucking wind. But yeah, I mean, it's easy as a human to like slide into just being in a state of anger and not thinking completely rationally and not realizing that other people are just determined. So, you know, if you have some instance of me doing that, then fair enough. But that doesn't mean that what I've said here is wrong.
Yeah.
Does it?
So
sorry.
No, it's fine. I just I don't know. Like I think that it's just one of those things where it seems weird to start thinking along these lines, like people don't have free will. But if we're gonna say they do have free will, we have to be able to give a coherent account of free will. And I've never heard a coherent account of free will. And I think that also something that might just psychologically make you more open to what we're saying is if you recognize that this isn't going to do anything bad to like, you know, like crime and punishment. Like you still put criminals in jail because it's bad for society to have them out there. And if anything, it's actually going to the extent that you have this at the forefront of your mind, make you kind of like more accepting of people, because you view them, you're going to view them more as like victims of causation than as like evil beings, right? It gets rid of some kind of basis for like anger and hatred. You view them kind of like you were saying, kind of like just a robot that's like acting.
Yeah, and I'd say also turn it on yourself in terms of feeling guilty for making a poor decision. I think it can have implications in terms of beating yourself up less. I made a mistake where I had an operation I shouldn't have had, which caused me more pain. And I feel like understanding there's no free will means, well, you know what? I shouldn't beat myself up, right? Because it was predetermined.
the weirdest, I agree. And one of the weirdest ones is the first person case against free will, which Sam Harris, I think, makes really well. So have you ever done like meditation, George?
No.
Okay.
My girlfriend's laughing in the background.
Because you need to, probably.
Well, yeah, because one of the things you can see if you ever try meditation, like in meditation, I mean, I guess it depends on the style, but you're gonna sit there and the goal would be like initially just bring the focus to some object of concentration. Usually they'd use your breath. And if it's like mindfulness, like the mindfulness meditation, the goal is basically just to become aware of kind of your consciousness itself and what it's like, right? So like you focus on the breathing sensation, but you also will start noticing other sensations. Like you'll notice like sounds appear in consciousness. You'll notice thoughts appear in consciousness. You'll notice emotions appear, and all these things appear and you become focused on them, and you don't actually even notice that your focus has shifted from paying attention to what's arising to actually focusing on the specific thing that just arose. And then you'll eventually notice, oh, I'm not paying attention to the background this is all occurring in anymore. And then you go back to your breath and try to observe. But once you do a bit of that, one thing you'll notice is that your thoughts, you don't like choose the next thought you have. The next thought you have just arises in your mind. And when you can realize that in a full enough way, you can actually open your eyes and realize it like as you're moving and stuff. Like even the motion of your limbs is like, you don't choose for it to move, right? The thoughts associated with moving your limb just arise in your mind, and your limb is moving. And when you fall into that frame enough, it literally just feels like you are just observing yourself, like just moving and having things happen. And so there's a first person case that's also very persuasive, where it's really hard to see where the free will come in. It's just things arising. That's all it is for you subjectively. You don't choose what pops up.
No. Taking all this into account, could this though spell disaster for part of our argument as vegans if we're essentially giving credence to Descartes' theory that animals are just these basically unthinking robots?
Well, look, I don't know enough about what Descartes said, but did he try to say they don't have sentience or something? Like they don't have consciousness? Because there's nothing I'm saying right now that would suggest that.
I think essentially his argument was that maybe his argument was more that humans do have free will while animals don't. Animals are just sort of machines.
Yeah, I don't think anything has free will.
And that doesn't reduce their moral value.
Yeah. Okay,
and
fair enough.
Yeah, because that I think that's the big fear people have, is that this will compromise morality in some way. Like people aren't, we don't blame people for like the horrible things they do. Because you have to understand, like, if there's no free will, it doesn't affect the fact that, like, you know, things happen and cause other things. Like vegan information being put out causes brains to react in a certain way, and brains reacting in that certain way will, you know, cause people not to eat animal products. It's still the chain of causation, and things that maximize well-being still maximize well-being. You know, I had a discussion recently with a patron who had become kind of like I don't know, like disheartened. I don't know if that's the best word, but he had really accepted that he doesn't see a coherent reason for free will existing, and he started to not understand like what there is to appreciate about life or something. And for me, I was like, whoa, like how did you get there? Like that's quite the conclusion. I kind of got it after a while, like sort of how he managed to get himself there. But the point that I made to him was just like, look, the things that were giving you pleasure, like before your no free will realization, are just still there, right? Like what kind of things were you taking pleasure in before, right? You're a vegan, so like you take pleasure, for example, in seeing just an animal being happy and experiencing well-being instead of being stabbed, right? Well, that animal is still existing and experiencing well-being even if there's no free will. Isn't that still something to be happy about? So I don't think the things that are meaningful, at least to me, morally disappear if free will disappears. There's still well-being, and that's kind of like, that's the main thing I care about.
I think it kind of, maybe this is part of my reason for not fully being in the there's no such thing as free will camp. Maybe it is a result of sort of cognitive dissonance and the idea that everything you thought about yourself has been shattered and that you're just a robot piece of shit who doesn't even make proper decisions.
I do think it's funny with a lot of like vegan activists though, because the thing is, like, if you spend all your time, you know, trying to persuade people out of some cognitive dissonance mind state, you're probably going to be quick to realize if you're doing the same thing yourself, or at least try to be aware of that. So it's nice to have you just be like, okay, wait, like, it doesn't sound like you're committed to this. Maybe you still think there's a rational reason for free will, but I like that your reaction is to go, okay, wait, this might actually just be cognitive dissonance that's doing this to me right now. And just to be open to that possibility. Because a lot of people will just irrationally kind of insist and not even consider a possibility like that.
Yeah, well, hey, that's part of the reason I'm vegan in the first place.
Exactly,
because,
yeah.
You know, you have to acknowledge that you might be experiencing cognitive dissonance, and hey, maybe the other argument is right. Otherwise, you won't ever.
Well, and I'd flip it the other way, because there are arguments against free will. Like, I can give that kind of first-person case, or you could, you know, you could make other cases. But I think the most important thing is just to realize the lack of an argument for free will. Like, not even an argument, just let's lower the bar. I don't even care about an argument. I just want a coherent conceptual analysis of free will. Just just tell me what you even think free will like would be. Actually, also, I don't know if we're going way down a rabbit hole with free will. So if you want to move this along at some point, Humane, just make me aware. But like, just George, what do you think coherent like explanation of free will would actually look like? Because I understand that subjectively it just seems obvious to us that we have it, but then once we start thinking about it, like try to describe like what would it even be?
Yeah, sure. I'll make this last point before Jack moves us on. Then I guess to the
Okay.
next thing. I think, mate, all my explanation of it was I would just go back to the whole vending machine scenario earlier. I think but imagine this vending machine is like massive and there's actually thousands of options. And maybe free will as an argument would just be sort of like, it's not being exactly predetermined what drink you will choose, but in that very moment, you're choosing which brain pattern to go with yourself. I don't know.
I have to just push back a tiny bit because predetermined, there's actually a concept called predeterminism, and you don't have to be on board with predeterminism to be not on board with free will, right? So you could say maybe it's not predetermined, maybe there's like randomness at the quantum level or something, and that, you know, bubbles up to randomness at the like larger level that we're existing on. So it might be that randomness is part of the picture. It might be that things aren't predetermined, but it's just the account of free choice that I'm skeptical of. Because my response to that account there is just that, okay, well, I mean, that choice was just produced by some brain activity, and that's just, you know, molecules in motion produced by prior brain states, produced by inputs into your brain, going all the way back to when you were born, you know, then back to the Big Bang. So I'm just not sure at what point you somehow enter the picture as a free agent and like leave the chain of causation and start your own chain.
All right, let's get off free will.
Okay.
You know I mean,
yeah, totally.
Yeah, George, it's not actually your decision whether or not you believe it anyway, so doesn't matter. There's no free will.
Well, there we go.
I've got one other thing that I want to bring up about things that vegans say that might not be true, might be damaging. I was having a discussion on Discord today about this thing with some vegans, and I don't know, it really bothers me when some vegans say it's always like immoral to take eggs from like backyard hens. In every situation, it's immoral. What do you guys think about that?
That's an interesting
we can
one.
discuss it. We can.
I mean, if you want my honest answer to that, I think it's only the identifying as an egg eater part. I think if someone was to eat backyard eggs in secret, I don't think that would be anything particularly immoral about that. I think it's actually identifying as an egg eater, and that's promoting the idea of animals as these objects here to serve us. And I think as vegans, we have to stop that association of animals as these, I'm going to say vending machines. Sorry, you guys are going to hate me, but animals, these vending machines here to just dispense food for us, right? So I think so while we can always argue that buying eggs, I think, is objectively bad, it always...
Oh, yeah, of course. That's just, you can't deny that's absolutely cruel, yeah.
With backyard eggs, the immoral thing is saying, I eat eggs from my hens in my back garden. I think if you were to eat them in secret... I don't do this, by the way, Pete. Well, how would you know?
Too late. I've already got the title. But
I think it's the identifying as an egg eater part that I think is the harm from that.
Yeah, so I think that if we acknowledge free... No, I'm just kidding.
Fuck!
With the egg thing, so I think I agree mostly with that analysis you just gave. I think that there could be bad consequences if people identify as an egg eater. Maybe there's not enough clarity on what that means, and it gives others the idea that it's okay to go, like, you know, buy eggs from a store. So if that is the case, that would be problematic. For me, again, like, I'm going to kind of just tie it back to my normative ethics. So, like, the main thing I'd look at is the effect on well-being. Now, what kind of things are required to get those eggs? Do you have to confine chickens to some, like, space or something like this? That would certainly be a problem. Does it disturb them at all when the egg is taken? I mean, that would be a problem also. So there are things that are objectionable there, but you could certainly find a situation where it wouldn't be problematic. Like, to take a situation where I think you just have to be pretty much just an ideologue to say it's problematic. Say that you have there's chickens that you take care of, like it's like a sanctuary kind of thing, and a chicken leaves a discarded egg in a field. I mean, I cannot comprehend what the argument would possibly be that taking the discarded egg in the field would be bad. I mean, it just seems like if an animal takes a shit or something, like, why not, like, is collecting the shit like evil?
Yeah, but what if you told people though about eating the egg?
I think I agree with that part of your analysis, though. I think that if you tell people in a way that's sufficiently unclear, and it gives them the idea that it's okay to buy eggs, and it contributes to them or someone else going and actually buying eggs and causing suffering, then obviously it's not going to be good for well-being, and I'd be against it. So I think I agree with you that identifying as an egg eater is, that'd be a bad thing. But I don't want to give a general approval to backyard eggs, because we're talking about confining chickens and we're talking about if we normalize backyard eggs, there would certainly be like abuses that would happen there. So what I would grant is that in some kind of idealized situation, if you have like a discarded egg in a field or something, I wouldn't have a problem with taking that. But I mean,
similar to, you know,
it's like, you know, well, there's people who will do things like, you know, buy like chicks and raise them in captivity just to get their eggs, and that seems weird to me. I mean, that seems just like, you know, why, like keeping them confined, doing all that. I'm not into that, right? That seems like it's needlessly decreasing their well-being. But yeah, there's you can, anyway, with any of these things, you can always, with meat, with eggs, with milk, you can always find a situation where hypothetically it would be ethical, whether we talk about roadkill, whether we talk about a discarded egg. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't give general approval to backyard eggs. You'd have to dial in some like very specific conditions to get me to approve of it.
And George, I suppose with veganism, you wouldn't see an issue with me eating some flesh out of a bin as long as I didn't tell other people about it.
Yeah, and I mean, but I guess a key part of that sentence, though, that you make there is you wouldn't see an issue, in which case I'd have actually known about it, right? So it's one of those, I guess it's kind of the moral equivalent of if a tree falls in the forest, no one's there to hear it, would it make a sound? It's kind of like, it's only when there's another participant in on this scenario that suddenly it becomes bad. If there's no other sort of sentient being in on this scenario, how can we call it immoral? I guess it's one of the great moral questions there's been, really. But again, I guess I would say that it's the same as the backyard eggs thing in that scenario. I think if someone said, I'm a dumpster diver, I eat meat that's already been discarded, that would be, for me, promoting the idea that animals' bodies are food. You know, that flesh is food, rather than, hang on, that's the body of a once sentient being.
Yeah.
Go on, Emma.
Same with like vegans that still wear leather, or they're wearing out the leather and stuff like that. Or, you know, you could acquire something that's leather, you didn't pay for it, you're not contributing to Holocaust, but you're still promoting it just by wearing it.
That's it.
Yeah,
and maybe to throw that into this sort of scenario, could we say it was morally wrong if someone had like a wool dressing gown that they wore around the house that nobody ever saw, that they had from before they were a vegan? Maybe that wouldn't be bad. But then if they were like, yeah, guys, check out my wool dressing gown.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
Could you not say, let's say I had a vegan leather jacket, but it looked like real animal leather.
That's a good point.
Would I not be, from, if someone sees it, they might go and buy one? Is it wrong to buy vegan leather now?
In my opinion,
or fake fur trims.
Or Beyond Burger.
Yeah, you can go down fake meat as well. I mean, if someone sees me eating like a vegan wrap, they might think, oh, fuck, I fancy a wrap, and they'll get a chicken one.
Yeah,
or pizza, or anything, ice cream.
I think it's actually beneficial to our cause that we have these extremely realistic looking products and wear them. Because if someone does say, hey, where'd you get your jacket? You can say, this is synthetic leather. This just proves to you we can be fashionable now without having to exploit animals in this day and age.
I'm just imagining you saying that to someone in the street when they quickly ask you, oh, where'd you get that from? They're like, for fuck's sake, vegan.
I actually did that the other day at work. It was really good. I talked all about my vegan boots, and they like just like Doc Martens, but they're cheaper, and like no cruelty happened, and yeah, it's amazing.
It's a conversation starter. You know, well, want to try this burger? Yeah, sure. Oh, this is some high quality beef. Where'd you get this? Actually.
Okay, so but then what if someone puts the challenge back to you and say, why can't the backyard egg be a conversation starter?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Well, wait. Explain what you mean there, Isaac.
Well, you're saying that there's a thing that appears non-vegan, but you can start a conversation around it and then make a point for veganism. Yeah. So if the backyard egg, I'm wondering if the backyard egg would fit that category, and if not, just like, why not? Because this is basically like, this is a point that I would make a lot, that we don't want to normalize these things. And then I made the point about food once, and one guy in my Discord, Insup, kind of pointed out to me, like, this, if you go all the way with this, like, this will have weird consequences. Like, you're gonna end up saying like there's a problem with like eating a Beyond Burger because someone could think that it's meat. So I think there are cases when you can normalize something that's bad. Like that's definitely possible. But I think it's also actually tricky to draw the line of when exactly that is or isn't happening, or where it starts and stops.
But
so I'm just yeah. Sorry.
Surely with the egg that maybe I'm not understanding your argument still, but the egg actually is an animal product, whereas a faux leather jacket is not. So
But you agreed that the egg, assuming it's like let's go with the really easy example of like a discarded egg. You don't think there's an ethical problem with eating it at that point, right?
I'd say only if people were to actually know about it, because that results in poor consequences for domesticated birds who we see as food sources.
But with a Beyond Burger, if people know about eating it, I thought it would be in that instance a good thing, right?
Yeah, because it's not an animal product. How can it harm it?
But both it and the backyard egg are vegan.
No, the backyard egg isn't vegan.
To be clear, ethically vegan, not dietarily vegan.
No, I would still say it's not.
What? I thought you said that you thought it's ethical.
No, what I was saying is it's not unethical if people don't know about it, but it still wouldn't be vegan. There's a whole there's a whole load of things that you could say like are not vegan but are ethical. I don't know.
Oh, okay. And by vegan here, are you using like a combo definition where ethical and dietary are like all in one? Because for me, I would say the backyard egg, the discarded egg, that would be ethically vegan, but not dietarily vegan. I'd make like a
okay. Okay, I see what you mean.
And if we just go off of the ethically vegan point, because presumably the ethics are like the most relevant thing here, then we might be able to say like the Beyond Burger is ethically vegan, the backyard egg is ethically vegan. But then in the case of the Beyond Burger, and I'm just asking this to you because I sort of moved a bit away from that argument. But with the Beyond Burger, we might say like, okay, this product, it's vegan, but it's ethical to eat despite the fact that it looks like it's not vegan, because it could be a conversation starter, it could spread something about veganism to talk about it. So, and we could just make the same case with the discarded egg. Right, it's technically vegan and it doesn't look vegan, but someone asks, you can be like, oh yeah, this is backyard egg. I think all other kinds of animal products are just wrong. Here's my case for veganism.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Right. No. So I'm just wondering if there's a distinction there, like a moral distinction.
Yes, because I would say, because it literally is a real egg, and you say, well, I don't agree with like animals being farmed for it. However, this is a discarded egg, whatever. That's still promoting the ideas that in a way that egg is food, which does result in a negative consequence for animals. If it's a mock egg, then that's more in line with the argument I'm trying to make. So if it's a thing that perfectly replicates the look and taste of a chicken egg, and you can say, look, we don't need anymore to eat any kind of egg, be they factory farmed, be they free range farm, be they backyard, whatever, then this is what we should be doing. We should just eat this product that has been made to look and taste exactly like an egg.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to get too hung up here. I'm sorry. I'm such a pain in the ass with all the little I'm annoying you, but because to me it just seems like so I'm going to try to appreciate the distinction you're making there. So you're saying that the distinction between the Beyond Burger and the discarded egg is that one actually is an animal product and one isn't. Yeah. So therefore, it would be unethical to eat the egg publicly, but
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Publicly, and then explain why you're eating it. Okay, to do that with not with the egg.
You cut out there for about 10 seconds. Could you just say?
So egg, actual animal product. Beyond Burger, not actual animal product. So therefore, if it.
Oh no,
he's cut out again.
Really? Here, does it help if I get closer to the microphone?
No, I think it was a connection issue.
Okay, I'll leave and rejoin. Just one sec.
Yeah, cool. some nice footage for you to cut out here, Jack.
Yeah. Title of the video: George Martin tries to justify backyard hens.
Yeah.
Literally like a 10-second clip.
Yeah, that's all. That's all I'm gonna show.
Yeah. So I hope that sound is better now. So yeah, it's just we have the Beyond Burger, we have the egg. They're both vegan, ethically speaking, but one's an animal product and one isn't. So the idea is that if we're eating them publicly, that would be wrong with the egg because it came from an animal, but it would be okay with the Beyond Burger. But the whole
Yeah.
Is he cut out again for you as well?
Yeah.
product, it would be doing that.
Sorry, you just got back. You cut out again for a few seconds there.
Let's move shall we just move to the next topic?
Yeah.
I want to.
Yeah, totally, sure. Well,
I want to know what you're going to
say. Only for the reason that Isaac, your connection might be better.
Is George somehow fucking with Isaac's connection every time he tries to make the point?
Yeah. It's like I'm annoying George.
Yeah. We're going to talk about effective and ineffective forms of activism. So I guess since veganism became more mainstream, so many activists around now, especially in London, there's so many different forms of activism. So we've got, obviously, the AV events are hugely popular now, but we've also got disruptions happening in restaurants. We've got the Save movement. Let's start on the Save movement. What are your opinions on the Save movement? Do you think it's an effective form of activism?
This is a difficult one for me because I've got mixed feelings about it. I used to be really pro Save. I'm not really sure anymore. I know that's probably not what you guys want to hear, but I'm not sure if it's as effective as Anonymous for the Voiceless. I mean, I don't really have any evidence for this. I think it's just people's perception of it, and how it makes vegans look. I don't know, because the whole argument comes up where they say, well, you're stressing the animals out more in the trucks and stuff. I think there could be something to that, but I mean, it's really irrelevant or insignificant compared to like the good that it's doing, showing people what actually happens and getting that connection where people can see the animals and it's real. But yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I don't know.
How do this? Yeah.
Well, first of all, I don't agree with the word saves.
Yeah.
They should be called vigils.
Yeah.
They should. Now, some activists have liberated animals at so I've seen like videos of them doing it, like chicken saves and stuff, liberating a chicken from the truck and stuff like that and running off. That would be a good use of the word save, but in 99% of the time, no, not a single animal is saved. So I think they should be called vigils. I do think they're effective in some ways. Yeah, I do think it's good that we broadcast the plight of these animals to the world through social media. Is it effective as other forms of activism? Yeah, I'm not so sure, but it's worth doing. I do think that they are actually worth doing anyway.
I think for me, I haven't been to a vigil in so long now. But when I do go, and I probably will go to another one. I want to try and get to a couple this year at least. It's just difficult to get there through work and stuff. But they always seem to kind of reignite my kind of drive to really promote the vegan message. Just because it's so visceral, isn't it? Just like seeing them, knowing what's going to happen next. It really kind of just reignites all those emotions, all that,
So I used to
stuff that makes me go vegan in the first place, just
right.
Because initially it was just because, this is totally fucked up and I can't justify it anymore. And I just really, seeing Earthlings and films like Dominion, you just get that sort of like raw feeling, like this is just disgusting. Do you know what I mean? And when you go to a vigil, you just experience that, and it kind of, like I say, it reignites that kind of motivation to do better.
I used to have that view that I kind of assumed that was the main benefit, right? To like reignite your motivation. But I don't know. I mean, generally, I haven't really had any falls in motivation anyway. But I feel like the best way for me to gain more motivation would probably be actually watching slaughterhouse footage inside. I think Isaac.
I don't know why my whole internet just crapped out. Please tell me it's better now. Is that clear?
Yeah.
So far, it's good.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just don't try and make your point again, just in case.
Isaac, I think it was your router acting out its own free will there. Decided to do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know it. Sometimes when I talk about backyard eggs, my router gets like a little triggered, and it's just like my router temporarily leaves the chain of causation, like with my internet. But no, the one thing I was going to say, which wasn't directly about the point, was just that I do really like, though, talking with open-minded people like you guys, where we can like raise things that the others might not have thought of, and then we can like think them through and just change around positions if it's appropriate. Like that's the way that we should talk as people in a movement. We should always want to like hone our ideas, make sure we're making sense, and get as much clarity as possible. So I really do appreciate the conversation.
Yeah, and it kind of, for me personally, I don't want to have, as a vegan, I don't want to have too much like confirmation bias. Do you know what I mean? So if I've got like bad ideas or if I'm saying something wrong, I really do appreciate when people like tell me and like to correct it and stuff. So the whole conversation about, you know, wrong things that vegans say was kind of interesting to me.
Just to get you back into the conversation and tell you where we were, we're now talking about effective and ineffective forms of activism.
Okay.
Jack has proposed to us the idea of the save movement. And both Emma and myself have made points. So Emma said there might be a bit of merit in the idea that perhaps it does stress the animals out slightly when activists are there and stuff, and gives us bad perception. My negative point about the save movement is that we shouldn't call them saves, because 99% of the time animals aren't saved. I've only seen like maybe 1 or 2 cases of an animal actually being liberated from a truck when this happened. But we were both saying they do have their merits as well, and I was just saying that I think it's better that people do them. I think they're worthwhile, even though they do have some things I don't agree with.
Yeah, and Emma made the point of how it sort of reignites her motivation to do activism. And I'd say for me, the last couple of times I've done a save, I've been kind of almost having a feeling of guilt that it's not bothering me that emotionally to see the, say, pigs in a truck. If I watch like slaughterhouse footage or Earthlings or something, then, you know, it's having a big impact on me, like my heart's racing at times. But the save movement, if I'm just looking at an animal and then you go into the slaughterhouse and then I start talking to an activist, and I'm so disconnected that even at the vigil, I'm kind of not connecting as to what's happening behind those walls in the slaughterhouse.
Yeah, but that's a self-preservation thing, that you can't be like emotional like that all the time. You won't be as effective if you know.
I don't think he's talking about that. I think he's talking about the same kind of state of mind I'm in. I think he's just not affected by it anymore.
Oh, okay, is that the case?
Are you just saying that you've just become desensitized, or are you saying you're like trying to fight off being emotional? Because for me, I'm just like I'm just not a very emotional person. Like I'm the person who, if there's like a family funeral, they get me to read the things because everyone else is crying and I'm just sitting there, right? Like I can go to a save. I can go to a save and I'm not going to feel emotional at the save. And I guess it is a bit of a misnomer. Maybe we could call it like, you know, the cry about animals who aren't being saved movement. But yeah, no, I can definitely understand being desensitized, but I can understand for people who it does like really boost their connection and their drive wanting to do that. My problem with the save movement is actually not so much about their activism. I haven't put any thought really into whether it's good or bad activism. It's that the actual movement seems to be run by ideologues. So I actually don't know if you guys heard about this, but I was going to do an event with AV in Toronto, and the people who run Save in Toronto and DXE actually threatened to protest my event, which was a logic workshop, if I was allowed to do an event. So I would never promote an organization like that personally.
The thing I was going to say was we can't tarnish the whole movement with one brush just because of a few few morons who said that to you. Like, I mean, there's
right. I agree.
Right. So that's all I would say.
I agree, but if the people who run the movement are those morons, I would not promote the movement. I'm sure there's good people in there, of course, but I would never promote a movement that would try to deplatform me from doing a logic workshop.
But then if we take that argument, surely then we could just be like, then surely we could like say there was someone in AV who people didn't agree with. We could give credit to their argument that it's like, I don't promote AV events because this one person did this. Do you know what I mean?
I wouldn't do it if it were a person. I would do it if it were the leadership. So like if Paul and Dassault were like out there like, deplatforming logic workshops, I would be like, yeah, I'm pretty skeptical of this AV group, but no, I can't say anything like that about AV. I've seen nothing but good from AV.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Just to go back to the question you asked me about whether I'm desensitized to the save movement, the violence that we see. Well, for me, I probably am desensitized because I've watched so much slaughterhouse footage. But the thing with the save movement, the point I was making is that there isn't always much there to be desensitized to. I mean, it's the majority of the time it's just an animal in a truck, is what I'm saying. If I was seeing, I've never seen an animal get like stabbed in the throat in person, and if I saw that 100%, it would have a huge emotional impact on me. So I'm not desensitized. I don't think I'd be desensitized enough for it not to affect me like that. My point is, it would just, if I was seeing a bunch of dogs in the truck, I mean, I probably wouldn't have that much of an emotional impact on me either.
Okay, so it's just about just the fact that it's just them in a truck. It's not a slaughter. It's just not enough to get you over that threshold. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, fair enough. For me, I don't know. I've seen so much slaughter footage. I don't know what kind of reaction I'd have if I saw a slaughter. I think that for me at this point, the veganism thing is pretty much just like, it's more of like just a logical understanding. Like, I just have a certain moral system and it just doesn't condone these actions. And I can think it through all rationally and be like, look, it's causing pain. And I think that doing that is a wrong thing to do to a being. I don't want to hurt anybody. Like, I can give you all my reasons, but that visceral emotional kind of like, I mean, I don't feel that the same way that I think someone does when they're like new to the information.
Just on the topic of effective and ineffective forms of activism, what do you all make for like out of the idea of singling out very specific companies, non-vegan companies, for unethical practices towards animals? Now, the first ones that spring to mind are, for me, Canada Goose and McDonald's. Like, there are massive, like there's a massive vitriol from the vegan community specifically for Canada Goose and McDonald's. But how are they different from, I don't know, ZZ and just some other River Island or something? What's the difference?
Yeah, this is something I've debated quite a bit with other vegans actually. And I was at a march, I think it was London once, and everyone stopped outside of McDonald's and started like chanting like shame on McDonald's, shame on McDonald's. And I just didn't, I was like, what is this?
I've seen that too.
McDonald's, to me, it's no different to a supermarket.
It's the same, yeah. For me, it's the same thing.
Yeah, and we boycott products, not companies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had the veggie wrap thing at McDonald's recently.
Shame on you.
But,
yeah, like I was talking to one of our friends, and I was saying when the vegan KFC, like vegan chicken, comes out, I am going to smash it. Like, I can't wait. That was like one of my favorite things to eat, and like
that was my favorite fast
like
food.
I used to hold the position that we shouldn't go to McDonald's or these big nasty companies that everyone loves to hate. If they, it's a particular, I can't really. McDonald's is the main one. I used to say like we should only go to vegan places only and don't go. But then the whole argument breaks down because I've still got to go to the supermarket, and then that's just going to be inconsistent again. So
do you think it's better to support a vegan restaurant over, say, a Greg's vegan sausage roll, or could you not argue that by supporting the Greg's vegan sausage roll, there's going to be more vegan options in the places where non-vegans go, and therefore people are more likely to try vegan food?
I think you can also strengthen that argument even by saying that, you know, if we support those bigger companies, it's those bigger companies that have these like huge production chains and big reach and big advertising ability. They're going to be able to do more to get the vegan sausage roll out there if it sells well than some like little local company.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. They got way more resources. They can probably they have the means to spread veganism faster than, unfortunately, the independent kind of smaller kind of companies.
I think there's benefits to supporting both, right?
Yeah,
I don't
of course.
think we should turn it into an either-or thing. We should just say,
definitely, yeah. No, I agree. You're correct about that. I didn't mean to frame it like that.
No, didn't think you were framing it like that anyway. I'm just saying.
Okay. Yeah, I was worried I gave that impression. But yeah, so with I think that I would agree that what we want to boycott are products, not companies. But protesting at a McDonald's, it would depend on what the nature of the protest was. If it was just like never eat at McDonald's again, I don't think I'd agree with the message. But if it was drawing attention to some animal cruelty there, then I mean it would probably be better to have that than to not have it. But then again, there's probably something that would be better to have than the McDonald's protest, which might just be like general purpose vegan activism.
Yeah, and I mean, if we took I'm protesting against McDonald's for their animal cruelty, well then that's literally every non-vegan company. There's no such thing as a non-vegan company that isn't cruel to animals. Literally,
yeah. So you're
of them are.
Yeah, so you're just saying it's like it's okay. So I guess the case is that like yes, this is something to criticize McDonald's for, but it's something to criticize so many companies for that it just seems arbitrary to pick one out.
Yeah, I mean, why single out one single restaurant, which, as you say, is completely arbitrary, when we could just promote a clear vegan message through general activism?
I think I agree.
Strange.
Yeah.
Like, imagine if it was that we were living at the time of the slave trade, and we just protested this one like plantation or something. Oh, this plantation's really bad. I don't agree with what they do. Boo! As we stop outside it on the march, as we pass all the other plantations and don't say a word.
Right, and probably go and like shop at like one of them.
Buy a slave.
But, yeah, so I think that something that seems weird about this is like just the fact that we can even sit here having this conversation of like what would be the reason for protesting that one, and like is it maybe hypocritical to go buy from another place right after that like does the same things? And I mean just all of those concerns, like those, I mean people who see the activism will have those kind of concerns, right? So for me, like the kind of activism that I currently think is the most effective are I think online activism and the stuff that groups like AV do, just direct interfacing with the public with slaughterhouse footage. Yeah,
I think it's absurd when people say that Cube of Truth are not effective forms of activism. They're usually from people who have never done them before.
Yeah, that's.
But I don't know how anyone could go to a cube, at least a well-organized cube, and come away and say, no, that was shit, it didn't work.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah,
and it's so well structured as well. That's why I like it. I think that's what makes it really accessible as well. I think because people know what's going to happen, they feel really comfortable with what's going to happen. It's all explained. It's all laid out. There's a briefing before. There's a debrief afterwards, and there's like a social afterwards, and it's the same every time. So that's why I think it's really effective. Because you just get the numbers of people every time that just keep turning up, and people actually enjoy doing it. So if you enjoy doing activism, you're more likely to carry on doing it as well. So.
Well, and it allows you to perfect a skill in a way that something like the pig save doesn't. Like you can't perfect really the skill of crying and feeding water to pigs. Like I mean, you can, but with activism like AV, I mean, you can get progressively better at interfacing with people, at communicating the ideas. So I mean I think it's also better for growing you as an activist to do something like that.
Yeah, and you learn so quickly as well, the different conversations you have, and you learn from your mistakes as well. And it's like, well, that didn't really go that well this time, but next time I'll say this differently, and you just learn every time. It's great.
Right, and something I've taken to doing a little bit. So I think that now this isn't a strict dichotomy, so there could be other factors that I'm not accounting for, but I think the two kind of main factors that make someone a good activist are interpersonal skills. We're talking street activism right now. Interpersonal skills and a good understanding of the topic. So like if you just have a good understanding of the topic, but you're really bad with people, you might not be able to really get through to everyone. If you're really good with people, but you can't really make a clear point, they might think you're, a nice dude, but just not really like be on board with what you're talking about. So you need to have both. So my angle is like the one that I have kind of like the most experience with is just the logic and the ideas and the philosophy and stuff. So I felt it would be useful to go to AV groups and just do little workshops where I help them kind of build up their argumentation. They can learn all their interpersonal skills and overlay it on the arguments so that it comes across right. But yeah, so I've been doing that with AV Guelph. We've done a few, and then that workshop that got canceled in Toronto due to the crazy people was actually just a workshop like this, where I was going to be talking through kind of like logical concepts with the AV activists there, so they'd just have more in their arsenal.
Yeah.
Another form of activism, and I was actually having an annoying Facebook debate with someone from Kent who goes to protests about live exports from the UK. And they were trying to, it's like the last one in the area, they're trying to get it shut down so that the UK stop exporting live animals to different countries. And I was just thinking about it. I was thinking, well, let's say they're successful. The company, whatever, who are buying the live animals will just buy from elsewhere. So how does it make any difference to the supply and demand? And therefore, isn't it just a waste of time? I mean, these are vegan activists.
Yeah. I think.
Sorry, no, go ahead. My bad.
Yeah, maybe it doesn't directly affect supply and demand, but we can say for sure it would affect those animals, right? If we were to stop live export, yeah, animals are still being exploited, but we know for a fact that at least animal suffering would be reduced in one way.
So it's welfareist.
It is essentially welfareist, but I don't necessarily see it as a bad thing. I don't think it's, for me, a campaign that is negatively welfareist would be one that says, here's a better way of doing the wrong thing. I don't think necessarily banning live export is talking about a better way of doing the wrong thing. It's actually about banning something that specifically happens to animals.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. It's fine.
I agree that the kind of welfare that I have a problem with, because welfare is a good thing, right? If it increases well-being, it's good. The case against that is usually something like it normalizes eating animals, but I've not been given like a persuasive enough reason to think that. So I think that it's good to make there be less suffering, but the thing that concerns me with welfare is when there's any kind of message that we've achieved a good moral state, right? It should be clear that like this is still an immoral state, but it's just less suffering. And then I want to also just say, so George, you made a good point about like, it would be probably better than not having it, basically. Like if we get rid of this, surely if we just have World A and World B, and the only difference is like whether live export is happening, the one without the live export is surely better. Yeah. All I'd say additionally is just like, I agree with that, but then I'd say on top of that I just think that the more effective thing to do, again, is just to do something like AV. Like if you're going to do something with your time, it just seems like your time would be better used doing something like AV than targeting live export.
Sure.
Yeah, and it's good. Yeah, sorry, go on, Emma.
It's better for your own well-being as well to do AV rather than live export, I think.
Yeah.
Depends on
yeah. Well,
yeah.
What was some of the keys I've been to recently?
Just on the topic of welfareism then, I haven't got the data to back up what I'm about to say, by the way, but someone did tell me this, and that's that in the EU, when they passed a law for enriched cages for hens, it made such a minuscule amount of difference to the well-being of the hens. It was such a small increase in space, and they had like some thing that's supposed to give them stimulation that they can bang into in the cage. So very little increase in welfare, but apparently egg consumption went up. Whether egg consumption went up as a direct result of that, or it could have just been kind of a correlational thing. But yeah, so I mean, in that case, could you make an argument that increasing welfare therefore makes people feel better about exploiting animals, and we'll use it as an excuse when we're in AV? Majority of the time, we're arguing against welfarism.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, what I would say is, like, yeah, if you could make a stable case like that, like a one-off example isn't quite going to do it, but if you could make a stable case like that, like, and it really did look data-wise, just like generally speaking, when we do these kind of welfare things, it leads to an increase in animal product consumption, then 100%, then I would definitely say the empirical case is there that welfare is bad. I'm currently not convinced of that, so it looks to me like a bigger cage means less suffering. So it seems currently like it's better to me than not having welfare. But just even having these, it's the combination of having these kind of concerns, like maybe it's normalizing something, and also just seeing that something like AV is more effective. That just makes me think, like, look, even if maybe this is a good thing, like there's just better things we could be doing. If we're going to do activism, I think that, like, basically just dedicate all of our time to just clear vegan activism, where it's just direct interfacing with the public, persuading people to go vegan.
Can I just throw out, sorry, I was going to throw out an interesting hypothetical. So let's say, hypothetically, so you know, a lot of people, myself included before I was vegan, are against the halal slaughter of animals, in that they are sometimes not stunned. So a lot of people would actually say, I will eat meat, but I won't eat halal meat because I want to make sure the animal's stunned so they don't suffer when they have their throat slit. Do you think if we campaigned and got all animals killed without stunning, we'd have a vegan world much quicker because people wouldn't feel comfortable paying for that to happen?
No, because I think most of the stuff about halal being anti-halal, a lot of it is just virtue signaling, really. It's just people pretending, because everyone buys halal meat. Every meat eater eats halal meat. They say they don't, but they do. I see these people, they'll say it, and then I see them at the kebab van later at a night out. They're buying, from a Turkish-run kebab van or something. I mean, how do they think that animal died?
Well, what do you think about this, George? I mean, like, people that actually actively do try and buy, I don't know, like the free-range meat or the enriched caged eggs or whatever, they make that step to, they make more of a conscious choice because they think it's more ethical, whatever's going on in their head. I don't know if they've really looked into it or not. But at least if they are already on that path, if you're talking to the AV, you've got something to work with there, and they do you think they'll be more likely to go vegan because of the fact that they are already starting to think about welfare of animals?
Yeah, I think the conversation can go either one of two ways with a welfarist, can't it? It really depends on who it is. There's no set way you can say. I mean, you might speak to someone who's a massive welfarist and they're so convinced that what they're doing is okay that they'll never change. It's like, no, look, the animals don't really suffer at all from the farms I buy from. They have one bad day at the slaughterhouse where they don't feel a thing, blah, blah, blah. But then on the other hand, it might be, as you mentioned, you might get someone who's like, well, maybe there is no right way of doing the wrong thing at all. If I care about it at all, why don't I just cut it completely out? It's not a one-size-fits-all thing.
To me, it just looks like the data is a bit blurry there. So, I mean, with the welfare, I think we can say pretty confidently, at least with certain reforms, that it would increase well-being for animals. Like, there's no doubt that being in a cage that's not like just the size of your body, even though your life will still be miserable, it's less miserable than when you're literally like unable to move or something, right? So that seems concrete enough. But then on the other side, the problems that might exist with welfare, they seem more like speculative. Now, they could totally bear out. If the data is shown that really makes the case that this actually normalizes meat consumption, or the idea that it's okay to slaughter animals, it makes people more comfortable with it. It causes like a sales increase. If any of that is really borne out, then I think we'd be 100% justified in taking a position that welfare is a bad thing and we should oppose it and just promote pure veganism. But right now, with that data being blurry, but the fact that it improves their quality of life not being blurry, I think we have to say it's probably a good thing overall. But having said that, we have better forms of activism. So I just don't see the point in putting time into the welfare things that, you know, we could raise some concerns with and it just doesn't seem as effective. Like, why
Sure.
not just get
The non-vegans are still going to do the welfare.
I was just about to say that. Yeah.
So yeah.
We can leave the welfareism to the non-vegans, and we can do the animal rights stuff, liberation. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, just get. I mean, if I'm sitting there and I'm choosing, like, do I want to spend my time campaigning to like increase cage size, or just get out in a cube and just try to persuade someone to veganism?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I can't raise the same kind of concerns about the cube as I can about the welfare stuff. So I would just say go for the cube.
Sure. So guys, I'm really conscious of the time because I wanted to keep the recording within an hour and a half, because I'm not sure people would stick around if it's much longer. So what I'll probably do is I'll probably stop the recording here. But if you guys have got time and you want to just stay and chill and chat a bit longer, I'm up for doing that. It's up to you guys. What do you think?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right.
No,
Well,
great. Very interesting.
yeah, it's been really, really fun. We should definitely do it again in the future.
Well, we might be, you know, predetermined to do it again.
Yeah. Well, George is the only one with the choice in this. But I'll leave. Yeah. I'll leave Ask Yourselves YouTube, BWP's YouTube, and George, I'll link your Facebook in the description. So everyone watching, I'd really recommend you give everyone here a watch, give some of your time. So yeah, thank you all so much for coming on as well to talk. It's been really good.
Yeah, great. Thank you for having us.